the firefighters got the call. A vehicle had hit a pedestrian. They raced to the scene, and there they found him. Officer Lewis impaled through the neck by a picket fence. His partner Harris was losing it. He pressed down on the wound with both hands, yelling, "Come on, he's dying." Herman told Harris, "You have to let go," so they could pack the wound. They covered Louis' face carefully and started cutting the fence around him, but Harris was breaking down. He shouted at them, "Why are you so slow?" Herman tried to calm him, but Harris lashed out, hitting Herman hard with his elbow. Lieutenant Casey didn't waste a second. He stepped in firm and sharp. "Take a walk. Let them do their job." A massive sinkhole suddenly appeared in the middle of the city. Surgeons from the hospital were rushed to the scene, but they weren't called to save lives. They were there to stop a man named Danny from possibly killing his own wife, Susanna. Before the sinkhole appeared, Danny had made a huge mistake. He forced Susanna out of the car during an argument, and right after that, the road collapsed. The car slid down and landed right on Susanna's legs. Now she was trapped and slipping into shock, but the sinkhole was too unstable. No one could go down to rescue her, which meant the amputation had to be done by Danny himself. When Danny heard he had to saw off his wife's legs, he completely froze.
No. Danny.
And just as that situation got intense, another emergency broke out. Alex noticed something strange. Jerry, another victim, had silly bands on his fingers. That could mean a child was nearby. So Alex went back to search Jerry's location, and he actually found something. A small hand sticking out from the dirt. He started digging frantically. Sure enough, there was a boy buried underneath, but he had turned blue from lack of oxygen. His body was crushed with multiple fractures, and he had compartment syndrome. The boy was on the brink of death, so Alex had no choice. He performed a fasciotomy right on the spot. He saved the boy's life, but back at the sinkhole, things were getting worse. Danny had tried several times. His wife's legs were already halfway cut, but he just couldn't keep going. The bone was the only part left, and Danny refused to finish the job.
I can't. No, I can't.
He was terrified that one wrong move would kill her, but what he didn't realize was that hesitating might be even more deadly. Owen had seen enough. Despite everyone telling him not to go, he climbed down anyway. He knew if no one acted fast, Susanna would die. And honestly, once you saw what came next, even the bravest people would hesitate. Owen successfully amputated both of Susanna's legs. That was the only way to save her life. They quickly lifted her out and rushed her back to the hospital for treatment. Candace was practicing gymnastics. Unexpectedly, a steel nail fell onto the balance beam, but because Candace was so focused, she didn't notice the danger beneath her feet and kept practicing as usual. Luckily, Candace had great reflexes. Every time she shifted her feet, she narrowly avoided the nail. She effortlessly dodged it and stuck the landing perfectly, just when it seemed she'd escaped unharmed. As Candace was about to take a break, a live wire ahead was sparking, and she had no idea. Just before she was about to get electrocuted, a teammate happened to hand her a towel at the last second. After wiping her face, Candace casually tossed it aside and it landed right over the exposed wire, miraculously averting disaster once again. A teammate suddenly stepped onto the balance beam, but unlike Candace, she wasn't as fortunate. After just a single flip, she landed squarely on the nail. The searing pain made her lose her balance, and she accidentally knocked over a container of chalk powder. As the fan blew, the chalk dispersed into the air, quickly clouding Candace's vision. Blinded, she lost her balance. Her head hit the ground hard. In the end, she couldn't escape danger after all. A patient had just died in the hospital, but instead of sadness, Dr. Bailey looked weirdly excited. And when she heard the man had just passed away, she got even more fired up. Without saying a word, she yanked off the white sheet and started doing CPR on the body. Dr. Karev was standing nearby, completely baffled. What was Bailey even doing? The guy was already gone, but Bailey didn't stop. She called for a crash cart, hooked up the monitors, and did everything she could to restart that heart. Here's why. Right after someone dies, the organs don't shut down immediately. They take a few minutes to fade. And this guy, he was an organ donor, and his liver was a perfect match for a dying patient upstairs. So Bailey wasn't trying to save the man. She was trying to save his liver, because that patient couldn't wait. She was running out of time, and to Bailey this felt like winning the lottery. Thankfully, after all the effort, they successfully preserved the donor's liver. But they still needed official approval from the Organ Procurement Center, so they waited and waited. Still, no word. Meanwhile, the transplant patient was crashing fast. There was no more time, so the doctors took a huge risk. They started the transplant anyway. If anything went wrong, the entire hospital could be in serious trouble. But guess what? The surgery went perfectly. The liver started working immediately and everyone finally exhaled. The doctor slowly lifted the cloth on the old lady's leg and boom! 2 flies flew out like they'd been trapped in there forever. But wait, when she peeled back the final layer of gauze, she froze. Dozens of maggots were still moving inside the wound. Turns out Marge was bitten by a bug 4 months ago and never told anyone. She just popped a few pills at home hoping it'd go away. No hospital, no doctor, nothing. It wasn't until her son Philip saw how bad it looked that he rushed her to the ER. But Marge, she hated hospitals. refused to let anyone even check her leg. She kept begging Philip to take her home, and then we found out the truth. Marge had been terrified of hospitals since she was a kid. Philip didn't know what to do. He even told the doctors, if it comes to it, just strap her down and give her a sedative. But that would only make things worse. She'd never come back to a hospital again. That's when Dr. Gray had a clever idea. She handed Marge a sleep mask and said, let's just pretend you're at a Halloween party. Surprisingly, it worked. Marge couldn't see anything, so her fear kind of disappeared. They got her into surgery. And the best part? Even after 4 months of infection, her thigh had barely any dead tissue. The surgery went smooth as butter. Marge made it. And maybe, just maybe, she won't be so afraid of doctors next time. A gas pipeline leaked in a quiet neighborhood. Flames shot into the sky like they were ready to swallow everything. But when Captain Beckett arrived at the scene, he completely ignored the source of the fire. Instead, he ordered his team to put out the flames near the homes first. But while the fire kept raging, the gas pipe was heating up. And if it burst, the results would be unthinkable. Sullivan asked for permission to shut off the main valve, but Beckett refused. He said, backup will handle it. Our priority is evacuation. But just moments after he said that, disaster struck. Up above, firefighter Vic was battling flames from a ladder. Suddenly, a power line snapped from the heat and struck her directly. She blacked out instantly from the shock, seeing the woman he secretly loved fall like that. Dean didn't even hesitate. He ran straight toward her, not knowing it would be the last thing he'd ever do. Meanwhile, Beckett finally realized his mistake. He gave the green light to attack the source of the fire. 2 hoses were released. A powerful wall of water surged forward, pushing back the fire like a force field. As they got closer, they noticed the gas valve was already melting from the heat, but thankfully, they made it in time. Working together, they stopped the biggest threat. The fire serpent was gone. Was it over? Not even close. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but no one noticed the spark still floating in the air. One single spark. That's all it took to change everything. And it landed on the unluckiest man of all, Dean. Just moments earlier, he had saved Vic's life, and Vic had finally confessed her feelings for him. But before he could even smile, he stepped on a hidden gas pocket. Dean had just discovered the house foundation was unstable. Gas was leaking inside. As he was reporting this to the captain, another teammate, following old orders, opened the door too early. At that exact moment, a spark dropped, and the explosion was massive. The shockwave launched firefighters several meters through the air. The fire zone turned into a war zone. When the team...
A large crocodile suddenly jumped out of the lake and attacked humans. The woman saw this and fired wildly with her M4, but the bullet jammed at the critical moment. Fortunately, the heroine Lena came out in time to rescue her. After firing a burst of shots, she squatted down and started the unlimited continuous shooting mode. As the 888 bullets in Lena's gun ran out, a generation of heroic great white crocodile fell. Afterwards, they pried open the crocodile's mouth and found that the crocodile had mutated and its mouth was full of shark teeth. The story began 3 years ago when a meteorite fell from the sky and hit a lighthouse here. The lighthouse is surrounded by a layer. An unknown object was shrouding the area, and the government had sent people to investigate several times. But every time the people sent, there seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth and never returned. Until one day, Lena's husband suddenly ran back home. It turned out that she was one of the last batch of members sent out. But soon she was carried to the ambulance due to internal bleeding. But before they could be sent to the hospital, they were stopped by the military and taken back to the military base. It turned out that the man was the first man to walk out of the lighthouse alive. When Lena woke up, she saw her husband lying on the bed, dying. In order to find out what her husband had gone through, Lena volunteered to follow the next group of team members into the lighthouse. In this way, a 5-member expedition team started heading toward the lighthouse. Moving forward, they passed through the outermost unidentified object and entered the interior. The camera turns, and Lena walks out of the tent while her teammates are counting the remaining supplies. It turned out that the moment they came in, everyone lost their memory. Judging from the remaining food, they had been here for more than 3 days. Thinking of this, everyone did not dare to delay, so they took their supplies and continued to move forward. Soon, they came to a small house by the lake. The flowers growing here were very bright. It looked like a wedding scene, and different varieties of flowers grew on one vine, which made Lena, a biologist, very confused. So everyone started collecting samples around for testing, and at this moment, something suddenly appeared in the lake. A prehistoric giant crocodile appeared, and this is the opening scene. The few people had just dealt with the crocodile, and now they discovered an even more terrifying scene. They found an abandoned military base and walked in to find a corpse in front of them. Upon closer inspection, they found that the entire corpse had mutated and every cell in the body had crawled all over the wall like a plant. Everyone was so scared that they evacuated quickly. Only the bold Lena is still collecting samples. At night, Lena took out the collected samples for testing, and she was surprised to find that the cells of the corpse were still mutating. At this moment, the captain in charge of guarding outside discovered something unusual. It turned out that one of his teammates was attacked by a mutant black bear. When everyone heard the sound, they rushed to the scene, but they were still a step too late. one of the teammates had been kidnapped by a mutant black bear. It was not until dawn that Lena found the body of her teammate. The group had no choice but to continue on their journey. Soon, they came to an abandoned house where many human-shaped plants grew. The bespectacled girl who saw this scene finally understood it all. It turns out that in this area shrouded by unidentified objects, the DNA of all life will be refracted. Human DNA will be refracted onto plants, and vice versa, plant DNA will be refracted onto humans. In order to verify the four-eyed girl's statement, at night, Lena used her own blood for testing, and as expected, an accident occurred. The cells that should have been normal were changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. This result made Lena extremely painful. Until late at night, her teammate, the short-haired girl, woke him up with a gun. "You don't. Get-to ass that fucking." Then several teammates were also tied up. It turns out that the short-haired girl's body is also mutated, and now she is in a trance. She suspects that Lena killed the previous teammate. Just as she was about to kill with a knife, she heard a cry for help from outside. The voice belonged to her dead teammate. The short-haired girl who just reacted picked up the gun and rushed out of the house. Then a roar was heard outside, and then a horrible scene happened. Look, a mutated monster is walking towards the room, and the people tied to the chairs are trembling with fear. The monster moved its head forward with saliva drooling, and human sounds came out of its mouth. Now only Lena remained calm. She reminded everyone not to move, but the next second the monster opened its mouth and bit the girl's shoulder with its big mouth, instantly making her diaper wet. At this time, the injured short-haired girl came in with a gun. Without saying a word, she shot at the monster, which successfully angered the beast. She pounced on it. He knocked the short-haired girl to the ground and then started biting her, but nothing unexpected happened in the end. Successfully sent the short-haired girl to the Northwest monster and turned around to attack Lena again, and the eyed girl broke free, picked up the gun on the ground, and fired at the monster's head at close range. The last generation of heroes died in the Northwest. After this experience, the captain could no longer bear it and packed his luggage overnight to leave this horrible place as soon as possible. Even if Lena stepped forward to dissuade him, it was of no avail. On the next day, Lena called the four-eyed girl to prepare to set off. But the four-eyed girl didn't want to fight anymore. Her body had begun to evolve into a plant. After saying a simple goodbye to Lena, she walked straight into the depths of the jungle. When Lena chased her out, she was shocked by the scene in front of her. At this time, Lena was the only one left in the team of 5. After a brief moment of sadness, Lena moved on. Soon, she found the lighthouse, which was also the most central location, but looking at the skeleton at the door made her shudder. Finally, Lena pushed the door open. As soon as she entered, she saw a charred body against the wall, and opposite was a video recorder. Lena went forward to check the contents. Only then did she realize that the corpse in front of her was her husband. So who could the man who ran back home be? At the end of the video, another man appeared who looked exactly like her husband, which scared Lena, and quickly turned off the video recorder, and then she walked towards the cave of the room. When she entered, she found that there was no one inside. Cave heaven, and the captain has already arrived here first. The captain tells Lena that there is something inside her now, breaking down every cell in her body. As soon as he finished speaking, a white light spurted out of the captain's mouth, and soon, countless light spots formed a sphere similar to a flower. Lena went forward to check. At this moment, a drop of blood fell from the corner of her eye and quickly decomposed in the flower. The next second, the entire flower transformed into a human form. Lena opened fire, but the other party did not respond. Lena turned around and fled out of the cave in fear. But the monster had arrived in the room earlier. The two began to look at each other. Lena seized the opportunity to pick up the video recorder and launch a surprise attack, but was knocked unconscious by a punch. When she woke up again, the monster was in complete sync with her movements. Lena turned and ran towards the door, but was pinned against it by the monster again. No matter how she struggled, the pressure only increased until Lena fainted again. When he woke up again, he discovered that the monster's movements had always been synchronized with his own. Then Lena had an idea, picked up the egg on the ground, and handed it to the monster. By this time, the monster had completely copied Lena's appearance. She didn't think twice and pulled the safety pin. Then he ran out of the door in one swift step, and then the entire lighthouse was set on fire, and even the unidentified objects on the outermost periphery retreated. At the end of the movie, Lena came to the hospital and saw her husband who had woken up, and after a brief self-introduction, the two hugged each other tightly. But there was something in both of their eyes. It emitted an inhuman light. So the question is, do you think the current Lena is still the same Lena as before?